tubigin. Mga ulo puro kwentong barbero. Pag ako umapoy, masusunog ang bumbero. Mawala ng pag-asa, kayo ay umaasa. Di ako panadero, di ko trip magmasa. Maraming kapalaran na o ang umalasa. Hinusgahan niyo ang nito ng di yung pa binabasa. Kakampi ko lang sarili ko, walang pake sa kritiko. Kakampi ko lang sarili ko, walang pake sa kritiko. Sa mga pabida ay mailap, hanapin ay mahirap. Huwag mo na tangkain, nahamakin dahil di mo na to mahahagilap. Sa iba ka hindi ba, sa itaas na rin. Ako kumikislap at kumukutrito. Pag nakoti sa balikat. Pabida bawal dito ang pabida dahil tunay na bida rito ay ang kontrabida. We are here chillin', chillin', bustin' like a motherfucking villain. We out here chillin', chillin', bustin' like a motherfucking villain. We out here chillin', chillin', bustin' like a motherfucking villain. Just for vida, bawal dito ang pabida dahil ang tunay na bida rito ay ang kontrabida. Marami na akong nakilala na sa tulad mo. Sa damak na rin sa'kin na sumumpulat bro. Kahit kwento, makakakwento, hanakasentro. Lahat ng atensyon sa'yo kaso puro invento. Mga sinasabi mo tungkol sa akin, pero alam mo ba mali ka dyan? Mag-ingat ka, baka bukas tamaan ka na lang. Sa iyong sentido, di mo naman hindi nagamit yan. Huwag magpakibang, huwag magkasana guro. Wala kang magugoyo dito, peke ang ituro. Kahit na magpatiwakal ka pa, di mo ko makasusuyo. Makito sa Madong Fernando, mamamatay ka lang sa kakaisip. Maangatan ako sa pag-arte sa harapan ng taglado. Walang multong manunulat na lumalabat dito sa aking kwaderno. Sa mga pabida ay mailap, hanapin ay mahirap. Huwag mo na tungkain, nahamakin dahil di mo na to mahahagilap. Sa iba ba hindi ba, sa itaas na rin. Ako kumikislap at kumukutito. Pag nakoti sa balikat. Just for vida, bawal dito ang pabida dahil ang tunay na bida rito ay ang kontrabida. We are here chillin', chillin', bustin' like a motherfucking villain. We out here chillin', chillin', bustin' like a motherfucking villain. We out here chillin', chillin', bustin' like a motherfucking villain. Just for vida, bawal dito ang pabida dahil ang tunay na bida rito ay ang kontrabida.
Hello, everyone. How are you all doing, beautiful people? We're so excited to have so many of you here this evening with us. If you are not camera shy, we welcome you to turn on your camera right now, or maybe definitely later. We would invite you during the concert portion to turn on your cameras. Welcome, good evening. My name is Juliana Yee. I use she, her pronouns, and I am an assistant dean of Yale College and the director of the Asian American Cultural Center at Yale. Thank you for showing up for your community and for yourselves in this space today. I'm just so excited for tonight's event, and I know that you are as well. Before we continue, however, I do want to take a moment to acknowledge the lands on which we are settled upon. We are coming from many places today, from all across this country, and we want to acknowledge the ancestral homelands and traditional territories of indigenous peoples who have been here since time immemorial, and to recognize that we must continue to build our solidarity and kinship with Native peoples across the Americas and across the globe. The Yale Asian American Cultural Center and New Haven Yale University is based in New Haven, Connecticut. And as an institution, we acknowledge the Mohegan, Mashantucket Pequot, Eastern Pequot, Schaghticoke, Golden Hill Pagasit, Niantic, and the Quinnipiac and other Algonquin-speaking peoples. We also acknowledge that this country would not exist, nor would this university exist if it wasn't for the free enslaved labor of Black people. We want to honor the legacy of the African diaspora and Black life, knowledge, and skills that were stolen due to violence and white supremacy. And today, while the movement for justice and liberation is building, and we are witnessing the power of the people, many are still being met with violence and even being killed. So collectively, we are unequivocally saying that Black Lives Matter and Black death needs to end now. Tonight's event is the third in Yale's Intercultural Beyond the Ballot series that we hope will inspire and spark conversations about civic engagement in all its forms as tools to build necessary and sustainable social change movements. A special thanks to our co-sponsors, without whom tonight's event would not be possible. The Afro-American Cultural Center at Yale, La Casa Cultural at Yale, Native American Cultural Center at Yale, the Community Initiative at Yale, the Yale's Office of Diversity and Inclusion, University of Connecticut's Asian American Cultural Center, Tufts Asian American Center, and last but certainly not least, Yale's Kasama Filipinx Club at Yale. And so, as the late Detroit activist Grace Lee Boggs said, we are the leaders that we've been looking for. And I don't think that quote could ring any truer tonight. And so I think regardless of the outcome of next week's elections, which many of us are, feeling a heaviness around, what I can say for certain is that the need for us to take an active role in shaping our communities, our societies, and the world will remain just as urgent. And so before we get to tonight's distinguished guests, which I know all of you are really excited about, I'm excited to introduce tonight's co-moderators, the amazing Kaylee Estosa and Pia Gorm, who are both our Yale Kasama board members. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the virtual mic over to them.
Thanks so much, Jean Yu, for the introductions. And of course, in the long list of sponsors and thank yous for this event, Jean Yu, you were the one that pulled it all together. So thank you so much for your labor and for the land and labor acknowledgement. So before me and Pia introduce ourselves, I'll just give you guys a quick overview of kind of what to expect over the next 30 minutes to the next hour. So me and Pia, like Dini said, will be co-moderating a conversation with Ruby for the first kind of 20 minutes. And then as we're talking, we really encourage everyone in the audience to think of your own questions, either inspired from the conversation or maybe something you've been dying to ask Ruby for as long as you've been a fan. So make sure to drop those in the chat. And the last 10 minutes, we'll be able to take some audience questions before we hop into the concert. With that kind of overview, I'll introduce myself. My name is Kaylee. I use she, her pronouns. I'm currently in New Haven, Connecticut. I'm a senior at Yale, and I've held several positions in the Kasama board, but right now I'm in the cultural chair. And I'll pass it over to Pia to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Pia. I use she, her pronouns. I am currently in Alabama right now, and I'm a sophomore at Yale and serve as the social chair for Kasama.
Now, before we really kind of give the mic over to Ruby to ask all her questions, I'll give a brief overview of her and her career and then let her introduce herself. So Ruby Ibarra is a rapper and spoken word artist from the Bay Area, California. She released her debut album, Circa 91, at the end of 2017, and has since toured across the United States at universities, empowerment conferences, music venues, in spaces such as the National Mall in DC, the Getty Center, and the De Young Museum. Ruby has been featured on notable publications such as NPR, Huffington Post, South China Morning Post, BuzzFeed, XXL Magazine, and was featured in a Grammy/MasterCard commercial and campaign with R&B singer SZA. Some of you may be familiar. Ruby's music is available on all digital platforms and can be heard in several museum exhibits, films, and television features. So Ruby, I'll pass the mic to you to introduce yourself. I know we gave you kind of an overview of your career, but we'd love to hear just your own introductions from your own words. And I can tell you that at least the Consalva Board is so excited to be in conversation with you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Kaylee, and thank you, Pia. And of course, thank you, Joliana, for making this event happen. Thank you for that amazing introduction. I think, honestly, that introduction makes me sound cooler than I really am. But like you mentioned, I am a rapper and spoken word artist. I'm currently living in the Bay Area. I've been doing this for quite some time now. For those of you who aren't familiar with me, I do have my music up on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube. And I'm currently working on my sophomore album right now, as well as a docu-film. So I think we'll probably be touching on those topics later on throughout our conversation. But thank you so much for having me today. It's such an honor to be in this space.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So we'll just jump into it, see how the conversation goes. And we want to make room for other people's questions. So the first kind of question we have for you from the Kasama board that we prepared is pretty straightforward, which first of all, we haven't mentioned yet, but happy Filipinx American History Month to everyone here, and to Ruby. So a question that we've all kind of been thinking about this month in particular is, and we'd like to ask you is, what does your Filipina American identity mean to you?
That's a great question. And I think that's a great way to segue from talking about Filipino American History Month. By the way, happy Filipino American History Month to everybody. When I think about my Filipina American identity, it really is everything to me. As some of you may know, from listening to my album Circa 91, which is pretty much, the overall theme of the entire record. First, as an artist, I make sure that my identity, my experiences are reflected in my poetry and my lyrics. I think it's important, especially as we think about things like representation and visibility, that we're cognizant of which stories and voices aren't typically amplified, and to make sure that they're pushed to the forefront. Secondly, for me, on a more personal level, I think my Filipina American identity is what informs me about how I navigate certain spaces, especially within this country. And it also impacts my beliefs and my politics. I've never seen myself as a person that was afraid or wanted to shy away from being political, because I think just the mere fact that I'm Filipina, that I'm Pinay, is already a political identity. Our very existence is born out of colonization from Spain and the US, and also imperialism. And so coming from that sort of history, I think it's only necessary for me to talk about these things, especially in my music. As some of you or many of you may know, being Filipino is a very complex identity. And, being Filipino American specifically, I think brings another layer of complexity to that identity. For me, I grew up trying to find a sense of belonging and trying to understand who I was and where I came from. And now I think in the present tense, as we all see in the Philippines and the US, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, and obviously a lot of discourse that needs to be had. And I think I would be doing my platform and my music a disservice if I didn't use it to tell mine and my family stories.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I know for myself, what you're saying, like trying to find a place of belonging, is a lot of what my journey as a Filipino American has been. And I think hopefully for other people in this room too, I think we've looked up to you and kind of the platform you have, and learning to like navigate that identity, and you as kind of a role model for Filipino Americans everywhere, and hopefully other Filipinos across the diaspora. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And then I'll pass it to Pia for the next question.
Hi, Ruby. So you kind of touched upon how your music, it encompasses your Filipino American identity, and really expresses that and is on like your platform and really incorporating that into your music. So I was wondering, how do you see your music playing a role in the Filipinx American community in terms of organizing and healing, especially with this year's theme of FAM being History of Filipinx American Activism?
That's a great question as well. And thank you for mentioning that and reminding us that is the theme of Filipino American History Month this year. For me personally, when I found out that was the theme, I was personally excited because, when I think about, the history of the people that were active, that played a role and a part in activism for our community, you know, from Larry Itliong to the Delano grape strikes to the late Dr. Don Mabalon and all their work through education and capturing history. You know, these are all very important things to remember, especially when it comes to Filipino American History Month. I think sometimes we get lost in the celebrations, and of course, it being 2020, we can't blame ourselves for wanting to have that escape into the arts and the music, and especially during these times. But again, it's good that you bring that up, because I think it's important for us to remember the historical, you know, the word history in FAM, and making sure that that's never lost on us, that, you know, that is prioritized, and educating ourselves of what's happened in the past and how we can learn from that and move forward, and making sure that we continue to amplify those that are marginalized in our community. And so for me, when I think about the role my music has in organizing and healing, I'd like to hope that my music provides some sort of comfort. I think by having elements of, you know, just telling my own story, I think that resonates with people. And, you know, for me growing up as a fan of music, my favorite artists were the ones that I could identify with. That's why I've mentioned multiple times that Lauryn Hill's Miseducation of Lauryn Hill remains as, you know, one of the most pivotal and groundbreaking records for me. You know, here was this badass, unfiltered, raw artist that bared her soul in the music. And that's exactly what I try to aspire to be as an artist, you know, to be one that puts myself in a place of vulnerability, because someone else out there may find healing through having gone through the same experiences as I did. And I think sometimes when we see ourselves in others, that's the moment that allows us to feel like our experiences and ourselves and our identity are validated. You know, like thinking like, wow, that person looks and sounds like me. And that's how I also felt reading America is in the Heart by Carlos Bulasan for the first time while I was in college. Additionally, I think music can play a role in organizing by simply, you know, just by existing as a narrative from a Pinay voice. I think when I was making a record like Circa 91, I made it a point to make it like resistance music ultimately, you know, and so I that was the same approach too with my music videos. It was basically saying, F what's normalized, you know, this voice and this face should be normalized too. And that's why my music has no subtitles or translations. And I think that's also one of the reasons why I chose to rap in Filipino languages in several songs on Circa 91.
Thank you so much, Ruby. And I definitely personally like resonate with your music and experiences as also a first generation immigrant from the Philippines. And I feel like for the first time, listening to your music was the first time I ever felt like my experiences were, I guess, I felt like someone was like, I felt like I resonated with someone's music and experiences, and really allowed me to reflect upon my experiences so far. So yeah, thank you so much for your music and what it means to me and a lot of, I'm sure a lot of people here in the audience and many in the world as well. So yeah, I'm gonna hand it back over to Kaylee.
Yeah, I'll just tag on really fast and say that, right, the music video Us, like I think I just cried like when I first saw it. Sometimes when I still listen to it, I still do. I think that's like the way that it connects. And for other people's reference, if you haven't seen the music video, you have to do it right after this. And it's like the posters I think in the back of your room, Ruby. But yeah, I'm seeing some confirmation from other folks in the audience. But to move on to the next question, which you already started to touch on when you were bringing up the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill and that album. But one question we want to ask you is, how do you position the Filipinx American struggle in conversation with the Black Lives Matter movement, especially in the context of movements for liberation in the Philippines? So there's a couple elements to that question. So how do we relate to the Black Lives Matter movement, and then also to struggles in the Philippines, and how are these things connected for you, or how do you imagine they are through your music?
That's a really great question too, and it's especially important as Filipino Americans to think about how our experiences parallel also with, and why we should stand in solidarity with, the Black community, especially just how things have been in this country, not just this year, but it's been obviously ongoing. And while I think we can see similarities in the way the government perceives these movements for liberation, here in the US, obviously the current administration has expressed, the Black Lives Matter movement, as I've seen on the news several times. He's pretty much called it a terrorist group. And in a similar way, I think the administration in the Philippines targets those who speak out against the government. And they're also subsequently labeled as terrorists or terroristas. And as we saw with the passing of this year's anti-terror law in the Philippines, which ultimately criminalized dissent. And so for me, I think the main takeaway of seeing both of these movements is, happen at the same time this year, is that people are tired, and that's rightfully so. There is an uprising. People want tangible change. And I think these systems of oppression are nothing and have no power without the people.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on that. I think that's something as a Filipino American, as I grow into my identity, is how I can be best in solidarity with other marginalized folks, and how to navigate my identity and how it's connected with not just the Black Lives Matter movement and the struggle for liberation in the Philippines, but also Latinx communities, trans communities, indigenous communities. There's so much, so many struggles everywhere, and I think it's important as we center Filipinx American History Month to also connect it and have those conversations about how we can better show up for other communities and be allies with each other. But another question we had for you, still kind of on the topic of the Black community and our like the Filipinx American relation to the Black community, is because clearly you are a rapper. And so perhaps you've gotten this question before or have thought about it before, but we were wondering, how do you navigate your positionality as a Filipino American rapper in relation to the origins of rap music and Black culture? Do you find there's a conversation within the Filipinx American community or broader Asian American rap community even about rap's origins and Black culture?
That is a very, very good question. It's never lost on me as a Pinay in hip hop that I ultimately am a guest in this space. This is a genre, this is a platform, this is a culture made by the Black community. And so I've always been mindful about the space that I take up within that. I think, when we have discussions around when Asian Americans or even just Filipino Americans participating in this culture and this genre, and even on the discussion of appropriation, my response to that is, first, I owe my career to Black music and Black artists and pioneers who have created the space for me to be able to participate in. For the most part, this type of music, this is my livelihood. And if someone, I think from the Black community, tells me that I'm being appropriative or hurtful, that is definitely something that I have to take very seriously and kind of reflect. And if that involves me changing the way I approach my music, I would definitely do that. Number two, I think when I am thinking about this kind of topic is, how do we continue to combat anti-Blackness in our global Filipino community? It's very still to this day, things like skin whitening is still very prevalent, and the type of representation that we get in the media, whether it's on TFC or in the Philippines, where it's predominantly mestizos, mestizas, or celebrities that are not only light skinned, but they're also at the same time still promoting skin whitening.
Yeah.
These are larger systems of oppression that perpetuate anti-Blackness, and even some of the language that's used, I think, in our communities. These are all things that we need to continue to interrogate. And that's what I've been trying to purposely do, specifically this year, as we've seen, the rise of police brutality continue to happen here in America. It's made me take a look back and examine how are the behaviors and attitudes in my community, in my inner circles, in my family, and making sure that, those discussions are started, because, from our very language to our practices and culture to even our religion, I think there are elements of anti-Blackness to it that we need to continue to dismantle. And you know, when I think about also as being a Filipina artist in hip hop, the third point that I want to mention is how important it is for me to always prioritize authenticity, to make sure that if I am participating in this genre, that the music and the stories that I tell are 100% honest to my experiences and completely authentic. At the end of the day, I don't want to be on the mic and trying to pretend to be someone that I'm not, because otherwise, you know, that is performative. And then number 4, what I've come to also reflect on, especially this year, is how can I best utilize my platform to amplify issues affecting the Black community, such as police brutality, racism, even lack of funding and resources to certain communities. And so these are things that I'm becoming more and more mindful about, especially as, you know, whether I'm creating a new project or creating a lineup, and making sure that I'm respectful of the space that I'm given, and that I'm also mindful about making sure that there is diversity in the spaces that I create when I have the agency to do so. And ultimately, I think it's just about, you know, making sure as Filipino artists in hip hop that we utilize our platform to amplify Black voices, to be in solidarity. You know, that can be as simple as recognizing, again, the space that one takes up, and to fight for inclusive spaces, not just thinking about it in the perspective of an artist, but even on a personal level, you know, when it comes to other spaces like classrooms, making sure that there's diversity both in the student body and in the faculty. And it's also important for me to note that, you know, when it comes to media like film, that it's not only important to have representation in front of the camera, but across the board. You know, who are the people writing the stories that we consume? Who are the people that is behind the camera? And of course, for me, in the realm that I work in, to fight for, of course, Black voices, and especially Black women on the lineups in the shows that I'm part of.
No, thanks for sharing all those points and the kind of perspective and intentions behind your music. I think that's definitely something I think we definitely see the authenticity in your music, but to hear your own intentions, your own beliefs behind it, I think we'll carry that for the rest of the time that we continue listening to music. But I'll pass it to Pia for, I think, one last question from us, and then I will encourage the audience, because I know you guys have questions. Just put them in. Don't be afraid. It's so much fun. You got it.
So head of the next question, since we're placing these questions kind of in the context of what's happening around us, which the Black Lives Matter movement and other struggles for liberation, we're obviously in the COVID-19 pandemic right now. It doesn't seem like it's over anytime soon, but I saw your posts on Instagram, as well as like articles about you also being a research scientist and working on finding a vaccine for the virus. So I was wondering, how do you make the best of both worlds as both a rapper and a research scientist? And do you find these roles intersect in any way? And did you have these two passions early on, and how did you decide to pursue both?
So when it comes to the sciences, I've always been such a big nerd ever since I was a little kid. You know, science has always fascinated me. I remember being in elementary school where you had to do one of those projects and share what you wanted to be when you grow up. And I think when I presented in front of the class, I pretty much, you know, for much of my childhood would always say, I want to be a pediatrician when I grow up. And I gravitated towards science because for me, I saw it as, you know, the subject matter, the study that explains how the world works. And I've always been a very, very curious person, you know, whether it's physics that explains matter and energy, or biology that looks at living organisms, or chemistry when it gets down to the small substances that make up everything that we can't see. You know, these are all things that always fascinated me because it basically explained how the world works. And to answer your question about how I balance both being a rapper and to have my 9-to-5 job as a scientist, I think ultimately it's really about time management. And I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate out there, whether you're a student that is working at the same time during a semester, or I know for, especially for a lot of us who are immigrants, you know, we've always had to carry out multiple roles and wear multiple hats and carry multiple responsibilities. And, you know, how do you manage that? It's just basically making sure that you manage your time. And I think it's been, for me, a constant balancing act. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say that it's been very easy to have both jobs, because there are some days where I find myself making sure I clock out right at 3:30 p.m. because I have a flight at 5 p.m. out of SFO, and then like running to my car, getting into an Uber, hopping on the plane, or, you know, landing at 5 o'clock in the morning and going straight to work. But I think ultimately what's helped me with this journey of having both careers is remembering why I'm passionate about both of them. And especially this year in 2020 with the pandemic, it's really given me, I think, a new perspective in my work in the sciences, and made me realize that the work that I do in the lab is bigger than myself. You know, this isn't just, I don't see it anymore as a 9-to-5 job where I'm just doing it for the paycheck. I'm seeing this as something that can hopefully, you know, contribute to what's going on globally right now. And when I think about things like, you know, the pandemic and the vaccine, I'm just reminded as an artist also that, again, you know, there is something happening in the world right now that's bigger than ourselves. And I think that's ultimately helped humble me also as an artist, especially for all of us that have been impacted across the board, whether it's schools shutting down or for many of us, you know, not having work anymore. I think what I've learned throughout this pandemic is that, you know, so sometimes it's important for us to take a step back and to count our blessings, and to also realize that we're all in this together. You know, we're at a time right now where no one person is more important than the other. We're all going through this pandemic together. And so it's definitely been an interesting experience.
Thank you so much for sharing. And it's truly like inspiring and admirable to see you pursue both of your passions, and within both making huge impacts with things like bigger than yourself, as you mentioned. And so now we're going to take a few questions from our audience. So just gonna start off by calling on Bella. If you can if you can ask your question.
Hi, thank you so much for speaking with us today. I've been a really big fan of yours for several years. I think I listen to us like almost every day. It's my favorite sort of like power anthem in any mood. So thank you so much for making incredible music and telling incredible stories. So my question is relating to the way that your music connects to people not only within the US but abroad. So as a Filipino diaspora kid in the US, your music resonates with me so much. And I feel my own experience is affirmed and supported by your lyrics. And I know many of my Filipino peers feel the same way. I was wondering how your music engages with folks, especially older generation of mainland Filipinos, and what are their reactions? Is music a way to bridge the gap of cultural understanding between the diaspora and the homeland?
First, thank you so much, Bella. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your kind words. And that's a great question as well, because as a Filipino American, as I mentioned earlier in this conversation, there were so many moments growing up where, you know, I was like, who am I? I never felt Filipino enough. I never felt American enough. And so when I became an artist talking about my experience as a Fil-Am, you know, it was never lost on me when I thought about what will happen when people from the Philippines listen to this music. How will they perceive it? How will they receive it? And so I had the opportunity to actually visit the Philippines last year. I brought my band, the Balikbayans, with me. And so all 8 of us traveled to Puerto Galera and across Manila as well, March of last year. And I remember the very first show that we did, which was pretty much the same night that we arrived. I was so nervous. I was like, oh my God, how are they going to respond, you know, to these songs? Because it's very specific. When I think about the experiences for Filipinos in the diaspora, I recognize that, you know, the Filipino American experience is very distinct from, you know, from the Filipino Canadian experience. It's always going to have, of course, it's going to have its intersectionalities, but they're very different as still ultimately. And so when I remember when you got on stage, before we even started the music, there were these this group of Filipinas in the front row, and they were already chanting "Island Woman Rise, walang makakatigil," and that to me, I think at that very moment, made me realize that, you know, even though my music is very specific to my experience, and I want to also make it clear by saying that my album Circa 91 is not representative at all of the Filipino American experience. I want to remind people that that's just a droplet in, you know, the Filipino American story. There's so many other stories out there that need to be told. And so, you know, having experienced that trip in the Philippines and it being perceived or received the way that it was, made me feel, or gave me some sense of comfort in knowing that there were still some elements and threads in the music that, you know, they could resonate with and they could identify with. And I think ultimately, or what I'd like to hope is that, you know, from my album, that at the end of the day, whether you're Filipino in Canada, Australia, or the Philippines, or even not Filipino, that, you know, there is still this overarching theme of trying to find a place to call home. And I think that's something that all of us can relate to, and all of us have experienced at least one point in our life. And but I'm definitely always mindful about bridging the two communities together. You know, I think I've been more on the privileged side compared to other film artists, where I actually have gone back to the Philippines multiple times, partly due to my music. I've had the privilege to go back every year for the last 4 years, and that's helped me bridge, you know, the connections with the artists over there as well. And so as much as possible, like even now when I do live streams, or you know, I go on Instagram Live, or even something like Kumu that allows me to chat with the people from the Philippines, that I always make it a point to also amplify the art and the culture that's over there, because I think that's very much needed. I think there's been historically this disconnect between Phil-Ams and people in the Philippines, and we need to continue to find ways to help bridge those relationships. And I do think, like what you said, music can be you know, one of the ways in which we can help bridge that gap.
Thanks so much, Ruby and Bella, for the amazing question. So next is Florraine. Is Florraine Avardo here? If you want to unmute and ask your question.
Yes, hi. So firstly, hi Ruby, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to get to listen to what you say, but my question was, so as one of the only Filipinos in mainstream American media, how did you find the courage and motivation to become a trailblazer in a sea of faces that didn't look like you?
That's a great question too. And as I see myself, you know, evolving as an artist, I'm getting introduced to spaces that I never thought I'd be part of. Like for example, as you mentioned earlier in the introduction, when I got to be part of, I'll use this as an example, that the MasterCard commercial. I remember when I got on set the first day, and I was like, oh my God, I'm the only Pinay here. Of course, I was very starstruck when I met, you know, an artist like SZA. But when it came to like my particular scene, they actually had 2 Asian Americans with me who were also, you know, women, and they were like the backup dancers for me. But then I remember thinking like, wow, like in this entire set, the only additional like people that are remotely close to looking like me are the backup dancers. And so I'm constantly, you know, reminded of just the lack of diversity every time I enter these spaces, whether it's at a lineup in a show and there's only not even just thinking of it as just the only Filipino, but sometimes being the only woman. Again, that brings me back to my point earlier about the importance of representation and visibility, and making sure that you know, I think we throw around these terms a little loosely sometimes, but it's important that the intent is definitely there, that people aren't just put in front of a screen just to satisfy a certain quota for representation, because I think people notice it when the intent is not there. And so for me to navigate in these spaces and not seeing other people that look like me, it is daunting. Sometimes I get super nervous, but ultimately I think what comforts me is knowing that if I'm at least here, whoever is watching, whoever comes across this footage or this commercial or this music video will feel like I can do that too someday. Like I can be on that stage as well. And that's ultimately what I'm trying to do, is to encourage and to inspire folks to get on the microphone as well. Like there's enough stage and space for all of us. Thank you, Florine.
Thank you, Florian and Ruby, for the amazing conversation. Unfortunately, we don't have any more time to take audience questions, but thank you everyone for submitting your questions. And so now we'll be transitioning into the live concert portion of the event. So I hope you're all excited about that. If you're able to share your video so we can all feel as much of an audience as possible. And also, I think it'd be great to take a group photo, if that's okay, before kind of we get to start.
So if you're able to turn on your screen, who's gonna take the screenshot from the Dini maybe? Okay, Dini's got it. Should we like count down? This is all very new. This is so absurd, but we'll have a picture with everyone. Oh, she's counting. Okay, smile. I'll count it. I'll count it. Do it again, Dini. Everyone do it again. Okay, ready? On 3, Dini. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Okay, we're good. Okay, amazing. So now I will now turn over the virtual floor over to Ruby.
Awesome. So I want to say thank you again to everybody that put this event together. I had such a great time answering all of your questions. They were all wonderful questions, and I'm glad I got to be in conversation with all of you. So let me just change my settings real quick. So this first track that I want to perform, the song is called Brown Out. And when I was writing this, obviously, you know, I had the topic of colorism in mind. You all can see I'm more on the lighter side of the Filipino skin tone spectrum. Written from the perspective, I think, of my sister, my younger sister, who is Morena, who has always been considered as darker. And I remember growing up, you know, hearing it from my family, our neighbors, and just friends asking constantly why my sister was darker than me, and seeing the impact that it had on her identity, her upbringing. That made me want to write a song like this.
My world had moved so fast today. The past, it seems so far away. And life squeezes so tight that I can't breathe. And every time I try to be what someone else thought of me, so caught up I wasn't able to achieve. But deep
Shout out to my band, the Balikbayan.
in my heart,
Balikbayan's version of Brown Out.
the answer, it wasn't me. And I made up my mind to define my own destiny.
Erase the ground subconsciously. I lose my crown till I don't even recognize the person that's beside me now. We came from the slums once, now live in the humdrum, and search for the green funds. We never could eat one. My mama on 9-5, 8-1, an immigrant family, even the names in the face and the place we came from. These institutions working, let's tell who we lurking. They shoot us down first when we play the part in curtains. Open up so we prefer them, so we don't know we hurting. So we become a version, a selfless monster. So how can I breathe this all of the free? So people agree with the freedom and free. I'm in the mirror
clearer than all that I see is the person in me that they want me to be. All of these facts that they have to see, I'll never be what they want me to be. Never stop working, any less than I think, and becoming more worth than that. All I'm amazing, that's what I'm looking for reason to let us be part of the future, the happiness. I'm writing my script, it's all that I see. No image of me represented the people. That's why so I'm looking for ways to be. That's what the people be me to be.
And deep in my heart, the answer, it wasn't me. And I made up my mind to define my own destiny.
So that track is called Brown Out. This next one is called Grass greener on the other side.
The other side,
Forget the dreams, you kinda ride. The grass greener on the other side.
the other side,
Come fuck with me, is you kinda ride.
down the
The
line,
grass greener on the other side.
the other side,
Follow me, slide.
the
The grass greener on the other side.
other side.
And now I'm feeling less right inside. It started in the Philippines. Passing them the killer bees. Till I was 13, fitting soliloquies and willoughby. Killing me for taking peace. Television imagery representing me. The most typical never look like me. Red, white, and blue. Really brown, white, and blue. I see my view. When the light enlightenment is you. Reflection of the you. Reflection of the truth. Attention to the cuisine. Connected right through. How can we be free and be a POC? Cause what they POC was a POV. When they see no me, they see you as a TOD. You're better yet a TOD. They hoping that's what you said the lottery. Playing yellow, the other half of playing space. I feel they ain't. I pay for them. The chase, too much bag is like my suitcase. Filling out of space, so we got here on a Thursday. The grass green on the other side.
The other side,
Kind of ride. The grass green on the other side.
the other side,
Fuck me, you kind of ride. The grass green on the other side.
the other side,
Follow me, ride.
you should
The
ride,
grass green on the other side.
the other side.
Now, that's the ride. And that was the other side. This next track is called Someday. And when I was writing this for the album, it was especially important for me to write because I basically made it as an honor to my mom's experiences as a first generation Filipino moving to the US from the Philippines. Hey. I wrote this album because I want my life to change. Tired of being shortchanged, trying to remain sane. Hopped off the plane, hitting stuff all the pain. My father's still in debt and we be struggling to pay. For a bit, we pop on beeping app. We'll just meet and have hands tied against the odds. How you gonna even that? People from the slums, fun. I live in the humdrum. Mama from the barrios, so we can stand once more. Wherever we go, we know. Face to all the demon, be a hero. Help and equal. I free flow and a slow. My pipe moves the people. My skin's so Filipino. Often sounds my pride inside. It's not in high tide. Here broke the ocean was free to learn and no stop. Those guys, you were free to eat with the most high. Those times, mama never blinked. They the whole life. Said mama, we gon' make it there someday. 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 Said mama, we gon' make it here. Yeah. Said mama, we gon' make it here. Said mama. sun's rays. Open up my eyes, I feel great. It's the one state. I promise to myself that I'm a best. So it's one way that I'ma take the chase until I'm done. Let this song play. My friends say unpaid. These days be the worst days. We pray, they or taste at a worse rate. Help us find a way. We rise up. Every liquid will find us lead the way. I'm waiting for the risk paid. Worst paid. It's away. It's away. This space, this space, this race. Not Global City. Birthplace. 91. Speaking the Christian this place. Gentrified. This place. Staying alive. This race. This way. You cross the ocean. This way. Still in the debate. So I hit him with this face. In the way that I knew myself. But we're living here to rise up and make it so. Thank you all so much for allowing me to be part of this space. Able to vote, please go out to the polls. Drop in your mail-in ballots by November 3rd. This is your daily PSA to vote. Important election bill. I said, Mama, we gon' make it there someday. 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 Said, Mama, we gon' make it here. Hey. Said, Mama, we gon' make it here. Said, Mama, we gon' make it here. Said, Mama, we gon' make it here someday. I'm gonna turn up the mic a little bit. Okay, let's try it for this next one. I'm all over the beat. Check, 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 check. Is this a little bit better? Yeah. No need for introduction, you hear and you know why I know it's diving to an era with the beats of lo-fi. Put my face in the book as my people are profiled. Erase from the book and my people are told lies. Cause the limit, go fly, Carly uni go high. I mean back in 05, but in you I grow wise. The price we grow thighs, double dose of broke eyes. We rubbing those sides to lose and hope it goes. But I got Bam to my left and Erica right. Here to give a new America like Erica Wright. Try to take my title, never will to inherit the rights. That Robin City's finest, put me on the 5 list. Color up the lines, cause it color like your iris. Hunger in my eyes, everything that I risk. Fill it with my tongue, every time it's better free. But the work is never done, and believe I'll never leave, cause I'm here. Yeah, so get your hands in the air. It's not the greatest is here. Yeah, and I'ma make this my year. Yeah, cause I'm finally here. Yeah, I'm finally here. Yeah, I'm finally here. Yeah, I'm finally here. Before this upper rapper talk less and take notes. We stay cheap, respect those who place, keep the next hope. We take this, the flex, don't finesse these, the bless those. They free, say test hope, we stay people, stay woke. Give you cat space. To the point I catchphrase, rhymes in the catchphrase. Full of sense of cascade. Product the Mac, Dre, Wu-Tang, and Andre. Break beats and beat, it's a break, next with best play. These still be from the slums where the people's never run. But people always sung round faces to the sun. Still the say it with my tongue. Fuck the spinning from the stations and rotating around the sun. The axis, my mattress, the pass out and pass this. Abstract the masters, last off the practice. Back to back raps, Manila Noir, Baka Bar. Homie took the repertoire bar with the bars of subpar. Well, I set the bar. Cause I'm finally here. Yeah, so get your hands in the air. Yeah, it's not the greatest is here. Yeah, and I'ma make this my year. Yeah, cause I'm finally here. Yeah, we finally here. Yeah, I'm finally here. Yeah, I'm finally here. Cause I'm finally here. So get your hands in the air. Now the greatest is here. And I'ma make this my year. Cause I'm finally here. Yeah, I'm finally here. Yeah, I'm finally here. And I ain't going nowhere. This next track called Playbills. And thank you so much. This next track is called Playbills. And I wrote this to talk about corruption and capitalism. Because as we all know, when we think about corruption, especially in the Philippines, and how there's so many people that remain at the top, that remain rich, but the poor stay poor. And so I wanted to kind of start the dialogue around that.
This is the remix. It's not the same version as it is on the record. Okay.
We pay, they rob us. These snakes don't want us. Each day we all play the game that they taught us. In God that reach for what they praying on us. That she ate them, we scrape, so we pay and both us. My mama's education on me, she's still from mechanic and McDonald's to baby still. Trying to sell a soul just to make the still. But the people at the door looking, they hate me still. Trying to stay face, finish with the brown face. Calling everything will never look at how my name stays. Made it across the ocean, motherfuckers better make way. 7,000 miles that I want us in the first. These days we pay way for the briefcase. Time stays, it's a death rate and speed pay. Free wage, minimum pay, ain't no leeway. Wild day, throwing us great just a week. Round face, it's a melee in my heyday. But wait, it's a melee in your great weight. Mayday, play the game straight, or you meet fake. Green face of the ink face when it bleed. Watch me make it rain. People don't know that I'm paid. Go, watch me make it rain. I made that dollar from a pay. So watch me make it rain. 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 I said now watch me make it rain. People never know my face. So watch me make it rain. I trade that dollar from a pay. So watch me make it rain. Watch me make it rain. Hey, watch me make it rain. Watch me make it rain. Okay. Shout out to Yale. Yeah. Watch me make it rain. People don't know that I'm paid though. Watch me make it rain. I made that dollar from a pay. So watch me make it rain. Watch me make it rain. Yeah. Watch me make it rain. Watch me make it rain. I said now watch me make it rain. People never know my face though. Watch me make it rain. I made that dollar from a pay. So watch me make it rain. Watch me make it rain. Hey, watch me. I see y'all in the chat by the way. Yeah. Putwidi la unta ako makakuha hin kwarta para ako makaginhawa o bago batatuwa ako tumabo sa pangin meski sapat ako nitsura tuto kita tatong parit basura paggamit na hinusan na pintura baga ng pelikula tatong kultura pagkidit politika puro nabuwa oran hanyolanda tago ang kwarta gikuha baligya waray nakakita damot patay nga naluro na bata sekreto na may tinatago kontrata ay napakiana isara isbaba ikaw unik bala kiranat bahala ayaw ka baraka kung natitinawa hirai mo ko nakuha nirat mo kwarta pura ko timbis tumulong sila at nagkakainis paano kumita ng pera bitbit ang hirap ng buhay saga at tiis wala yung gipit wala bang hustisya sa ating basa at lahat na lang puro peke at eto grabe marunong na ako gumante sa kurakot na negosyante at matapog Plain people don't know that I'm paid though. Watch me make it rain. I made that dollar from a pay. So watch me make it rain. Watch me make it rain. Say it. Watch me make it rain. Watch me make it rain. I said now watch me make it rain. People never know my face though. Watch me make it rain. I played that dollar from a pay. So that track was called Playbills. Someone said, the way this is the hypest critique of capitalism I've ever seen. So this next track is called Curtain Call. In a similar way, I also wrote this as a critique, more specifically towards the government, of what happened when we basically expose what's behind closed doors and we opened up the curtains. It's similar to like theatrical play. I think that's the reason why I wanted to name this track Curtain Call. Okay. Yeah. Check the southeast mouthpiece, hit 'em with that loud speech. Funny that they doubt me, motherfucker crown me. I'll be rowdy, what you know about me? Fuck all that the formulaic image that they tout me. Act out, lash out, hit it, take the fast route. Round out, I spaz out, then do it till I pass out. No cut out or lay out, cause I'ma get my face out, my fist out. So can you taste my name now? The hell that I race now, I break out my place now. No faking my face now, I'm taking my name now. They grade out, they hate out, I pick out, no bail out. They make breaks, but leave out my false hope. We crave out this country of dreams, weaving the seams, assisting the fees of people to see. Our pushing that means our pyramid scheme, consider for me. We such a cream, in love with the green American dream. Our fantasy theme, they running supreme. Basketball, needs to crash and breathe in the lap. Feeling with that, stabbing the front so you bleed in the back. Putting it back to you crack and that's like here's the facts. Hitting you that's here's the half of the new to the act in a way so they keep you believing you're lacking these tests of yourself so you don't get back. Curtain call. Oh, when it's curtain call. When it's curtain call. When it's curtain call, person after all, when the truth all start to fall, will you rise or will you fall? Students out and standing tall, all the powerful involved, even hoping that you fall. Will you rise or will you fall? Tell me when it's curtain call. When it's curtain call. When it's curtain call. When it's curtain call. Is when it's curtain call. Will they all give you applause for playing the birthday card? You to be, you lose it all, hoping that you don't evolve, cause they know that's not the fall. Are you in it for the hall? Play your role and be involved. Did you follow protocol like they wanted you to draw? Bloody knuckles to you all, curtains try to you withdraw. Everything about you know, you don't recognize at all. Person that's your word, that's all. This is when it's curtain call. This is when it's curtain call. Who's a person after all? When the truth all start to fall, will you rise or will you fall? Systems that be standing tall, all the powerful involved, they've been hoping that you fall. Will you rise or will you fall? Tell me when it's that track was called Curtain Call. Shout out to everybody in the chat. What up, Adrian, Bella, Kaylee, Christine, Lauren, Pam. I just have a few more tracks for you guys. This next one I wanted to share today. This one is called 1,000 Cuts. It's actually my newest song that I released at the beginning of this year. And I'm very proud of this song and this record because it was written specifically for a film that also came out this year. And that was the docu-film called 1,000 Cuts of the same name. And so the story behind this is, as I mentioned earlier, you know, me and my band, the Balikbayans, visited the Philippines last year. And our very last gig that we did in Manila was at the Rappler offices. And this was literally like 4 hours right before our flight back to San Francisco. And I remember while we were performing our set, it was being recorded live. We were on the second song, and all of a sudden this person comes into the office, two of them actually. And one of those two individuals, like all of a sudden, once I realize who this figure is, I start having a heart attack while I'm in the middle of my set. And I'm like, oh my God, don't forget my lyrics. Don't fangirl. You know exactly who that person is. And I turn my head using my peripherals first, and it's Maria Ressa herself. She enters the Rappler offices. And that's the very first time that I actually get to meet her. And since then, we've kept an open communication with each other. And so December of last year, she actually reached out to me. And initially, they were going to use the song Us for the movie 1,000 Cuts. But ultimately, we arrived at the decision of me writing a new original song for the film. And this is the song that came about in that collaboration. And if you guys haven't watched 1,000 Cuts yet, please, I encourage you all to do so. It's very relevant, of course, to what's happening in the Philippines right now with Duterte and the administration and the anti-terror law, which again criminalizes dissent and limits people's freedom. Shout out to my bandmate, Lassie, who produced this track. Okay. Fall, stand up, these balls will rise up. Even when I lose it all, I always got my eyes up. They're breaking on my downfall, but I'll never give up. 1,000 cuts won't be enough to keep my fist in the cuffs. And I'm never breaking down when the odds against me. Brown, gold crown with the God within me. Yup, I was the flower that bloomed in the dark room. With the pawns fools through the womb when I write move. This was my food till I soon. Pray too many moons and my wounds would not wound where we from. That proves we hum to these tunes and hope it starts like a night in mid-tune. My heart's full of hate here. It's harder when you live fear. When you don't see you in the mirror. I lost so many peers. You seem to disappear. But you're living through these words and I'm waiting here. Tell me you remember me. I'm here to build a legacy. I got the ground moving under me. 1,000 cuts ain't never stopping me. And that's where I'm never giving up. Right now, I'm standing up. And I ain't ever need no ounce of luck. And the summer's that's enough. Yeah, that's enough. I can live 1,000 cuts. Right, I can live 1,000 cuts. I can live a life that's covering up. What do you die for? What do you live for? When it's resistance, met with an uproar. I'm trying to love more. We've had enough war. Too many stones in our hands and these guns drawn. They try to pressure me. Press me till I stumble down, but not this time. I go 0 to 100 now. They'll never silence me. My voice will be denied. And I'm telling you, you know it won't be televised. And I'll never compromise. Think I'm right to survive. When the freedom ain't being to speak the whole time. Yeah, I see it in me from the lines to my feelings. To the artists, to the artists, to the writers, making feelings. It's like the deep lives on front lines. Stop question these minds. If I ever cut my tongue, that'll be the test. Every step where no one won't be any less BS. Tell me you remember me. Here to build a legacy. I got the ground moving under me. 1,000 cuts ain't never stopping me. And that's where I'm never giving up. Right now, I'm standing up. And I ain't ever need no ounce of luck. Understand that's enough. Yeah, that's enough. I can live 1,000 cuts. I can live 1,000 cuts. And live a life that's covered up. Not I'm never giving up. Right now, I'm standing up. And I ain't ever need no ounce of luck. To understand myself, that's enough. Yeah, that's enough. I can live 1,000 cuts. I can live 1,000 cuts. Live a life that's covered up. That's where I'm never giving up. Right now, I'm standing up. And I ain't ever need no ounce of luck. To understand myself, that's enough. Yeah, that's enough. I can live 1,000 cuts. I can live 1,000 cuts. Live a life that's covered up. That's where I'm never giving up. Right now, I'm standing up. And I ain't ever need no ounce of luck. To understand myself, that's enough. Yeah, that's enough. I can live 1,000 cuts. I can live 1,000 cuts. To live a life that's covered up. Walls stand up. Walls I rise up. Even when I lose it all, I always got my eyes up. They're breaking on my downfall, but I'll never give up. 1,000 cuts will be enough to keep my fist in these cuffs. If I fall, stand up. These walls I rise up. Even when I lose it all, I always got my eyes up. They're praying on my downfall, but I'll never give up. 1,000 cuts won't be enough to keep my fist in these cuffs. And that track was 1,000 cuts. Wait. Before we get to the next track and my final track, I think Bella wants to join me on this next song. No, I'm just playing. I don't mean to put people on the spot. No pressure, no pressure. But feel free to sing along. I know you guys are all on mute right now, but if you know the lyrics to this song, let me feel that energy, like feed that energy back to me. Let me at least see y'all in the videos. But this final track that I want to perform is called Us, and it's actually my favorite track on the record. You know, this is in collaboration with 3 other powerful, badass Pinays that I know. So shout out to Classy, Rocky Rivera, and Faith Santilia. Shout out to Beat Rock Music. Hey. Juliana's gonna do the second verse. Are y'all ready? Y'all ain't ready. Island woman rise, walang makakahil. Brown woman rise, alamin ng yung ugat. They got nothing on us, nothing on us, nothing on us, nothing on us. Island woman rise, walang makakahil. Brown woman rise, alamin ng yung ugat. They got nothing on us. I see y'all, Kaylee and Anna. Hey. So fuck the story arc, but don't involve the matriarch. The mothers work from the ground up, they craft in air like ATR with the butterfly seeds. Ako Philippine yan, pag nasalita, magabanat ay bala. Huwag magtaka kung ako ay makakabulok na sistema ko. Rako sa pera, bagsak, but we put in our heart into darkness. They putting these things in the office. You think it's something, but you held a loss. You blessed me the boss while I top this. But look at my eyes, she moves the cold. Can't hold a Canada, her is low. Look at the wrist, like catch you home. But not the English, she's fucking in gold. We pulling up in a jeepney. All of my soldiers greet me. Having bandanas before, but my hammer is warfare when you see me. Seen you a lot from my country. I live and die for my country. I kill a pig in a Wahoo suit on the low for my country. They got evil plans to double tank, but I don't prank cause I organize. Found new ways to impose strength, but teach mine how to mobilize. We don't fight for the money, for the greedy, for the right man. All we want is our freedom and the right to live on the motherland. Honest woman, pride, walang makakatigil. Brown, brown woman, rise, alamin lang yung ugat. They got nothing on us, nothing on us, nothing on us, nothing on us. Honest woman, rise, walang makakatigil. Brown, brown woman, rise, alamin lang yung ugat. They got nothing on us, nothing on us, nothing on us. Abanito sa kamay, ay isang mikropono sabay. Arang tapang kogi ng inay, at halimaw nang sumasabay. Mga para nyo lahat sablay, mga rappers na puro bangkay. Tinamaan ko lahat patay, kaya walang mag-iingay. I got that Filipino phenotype, kahit kung mag-inestis o white. But give me that moreno light, that Rufio or Kino type. My lola's baby speaking like those Mali songs of all night. I breathe the ether, Nino hype, two tongues are sharper with the mic. I Nino in my history like, from a Lara Greedus weaving tight. They even silver piece of mic, just turn a Sino light. As defender like Aquino, right? Rodrigo Vigilante type. They kill my titles left and right, when terror law just spills the night. Walang makakatigil. Brown, brown woman, rise, alamin ng yung ugat. They got nothing on us, eh. Nothing on us, eh. Nothing on us, eh. Nothing on us. Honest woman, wise, walang makakatigil. Brown, brown woman, rise, alamin ng yung ugat. They got nothing on us, nothing on us, nothing on us. These stung bugs suck. Once again, my name is Ruby Yabara. Thank you so much for everybody that put this together. Thank you to Yale. Thank you to Juliana. And thank you to everybody that participated in our Q&A today. I had such a great time being in conversation with all of you. Thank you so much. I hope I get to visit Yale in person soon.
We hope so too.
When this is over, let me know. I'll bring my entire band too.
Oh yeah, it would be amazing. That would be a dream. Thank you everyone for being here. Just a reminder, next week we have another event in the series of and it's titled Being Well at Yale, Student Engagement During Social Change Movements. So be safe, be well, vote if you can, and take care of one another. Have a good night. Thank you, Ruby.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye.